Okay, beautiful people. We are back. And you are finding a seat, please, while I read you a sacrificial poem. Okay. Who or what is God? 1,000 conjectures. Hazards like angels, the red shape of our Messiah's life force. What or who is God? He destroys death. Apples fall and we slip into days of handfuls. When mortality leaves her reputation, stately tears, attempts to rise, her light sick for identity, ask, who or what is God? A turnpike of lips, hands and thirst. I don't know what he eats. Sure, anyone can speak of feet. Thank you. Okay, and let's go open mic with Glenn Hunting. Glenn Hunting.
Hi everyone. If you've been to Alice Springs, it's in the middle of the McDonnell Ranges, which sort of are these great ridges that run east-west through the township. And at various places there are gaps in them where the water and the rivers and the runoff run through whenever it rains, and some of them are sacred. And this is about one of them where there are paintings and carvings. Emily Gap, Northern Territory. Ochre and lime and animal fat, ground up and mixed in and lovingly applied to these rocky abutments that waited millennia to signify. Adorned with the creatures that carved this gap and fed the ancestors who embarked on creation here. Emblems so old in the realm of depiction, but consumed by the elements the custodians continue to honour. My voice is profane in this cavernous cleft, its enormity stark in the drowsing drought-time sun. So eerily imposing that I cannot imagine inhabiting it, only infusing and then retreating back into manageable fallowness. And yet, I can't help but envisage a family, all purpose and all solemnity, laying aside their tools and sheltering within this primal cathedral, undaunted by their isolation. It gives them their comfort and uplift as the charges of a mighty continuum, but otherwise threatens to dam myself up with unstoppable awe and dread. Todd Street, Alice. The howlings of outrage that flay these streets, all other ethnicities feel bound to explain or excuse. A harshness that our kind applies en masse and then shrinks from. We'll try to retrieve nobility from these audible scars, scramble to conjure those skillful curators of spirit and time. They're as much commandeered as the mountains and streams, as convenient as the shattering of kinships from country. Perhaps, with pauses that stand in for penance, we'll register the groans of the decimated, the hospice with its untended wounded. Or else, with wry irreverence, we'll shrug at the amplified pinpricks of whitefella nonsense. Discomforts so heartily proclaimed and then abandoned. This last has the warning that all should heed, but none but they should claim. Invasion or cohabitation can't alter the law. Guardianship and spur together, achingly shouldered and loved through hereditary passage, fearsome, essential. Crying havoc in a drunken laneway is but a tin whistle against that implacable clarion. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Glenn. I think that's the first time I've seen you perform live, so it was absolutely worth the wait. Well done. Okay, now, Stephen Cole, Perth Poetry Club's most regular contributor, Stephen Cole. Here he comes.
Dreams. Dreaming of someone special, being good, going out, cafes, restaurants, dining out, soft music, trips, off to the movies we both like, dancing, romancing, seeing the sun rise, sleepyheads, soft music, flows, I drift off to sleep. Attracted. They talk, listen to each other, smiling, not holding hands, talking in general, conversation about movies, books they both like, keeping things in general, listening to each other, liking one another. Music plays, they dance, getting to know each other. Different genre called Starship. What is it? We don't know, Captain. It looks like big enough for one person, sir. They'll beam it aboard. In a lift, they spiral down. Aboard this ship, to see a vision. Well, Captain, she looks at the captain and asks, will you take me home? He replies, where is home? Earth, of course. Thank you.
Let's hear it from all the Trekkies in the room, the Trekkies. Okay, and now let's hear from Ron Oakley, the man that looks like he should be wearing a stockman's hat. Ron Oakley.
Yeah, it'd be a good idea if you put them on. Yeah, this one. I'm sorry I left my glasses home. I was skiing so careful. Anyway, I'll do my best. Busted flat. Busted flat, with apologies, of course, to Chris Christopherson. He shuffled into my office, ignoring the reception. Guitar slung over his faded, slept-in clothes. Bag of fruit. G'day. Strummed a few bars of Bobby McGee. Busted flat on Baton Rouge and feeling nearly faded as my jeans. He dropped the guitar and stood spread-eagled himself against the wall. Sit down, John. I'm not the police. Do you know the words? Well, not all of them. Can you get a copy? I'll try. He was gone. He'd be back. Same clothes, bag of fruit, a few more lines. For feeling good was easy when Bobby sang the blues. Feeling good was good enough for me. I missed him for a month or two. A call came through from Kaz. that guy John is cutting up rough. Why they called me was my responsibility. By the time we got there, he was gone. He wasn't hard to follow. In an alley near the cathedral, he'd holed up with a knife. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Shit scared, we saved him from himself. For I'll trade all my tomorrows for a single yesterday. Dear John.
And coincidentally, Ron was reading from the book that's called The Stockman's Hat. I don't know, maybe I subconsciously realised that. Okay, David Finley, that beard, David Finley.
Concentrate on the beard, it may be the only fun you're going to get for the next few minutes. I'm not quite sure why I wrote this, or even more so why I'm reading it now. But it's to do with low-level discrimination or thoughtlessness. And this was inspired by an interview on the radio a couple of days ago where the young interviewee said that she was expected to do with a short body what a long person could do, which is a lower level of discrimination. Have you ever been treated the same as if you're a long person in a short person's body, or a short person in a long person's frame? Or rather, have you been reflected upon for progress against some other person's unrealistic expectations of you by measuring against what they expect regardless? Have you ever fallen short of expectation because you were not able to do something new that others thought that you could do without giving prior explanation? As with an invalid measured against ambulance, a blind person against the sighted, or having a body or looks less than Hollywood wants. In a world where intellectual acuity is honoured, one is viewed as defective if lacking an alma mater, where to fit, though, is essential for a future secured. Many fear or attack difference, it seems. Many are embarrassed by diversity or are thoughtless and turn their backs to avoid scenes. No one should lay their expectations on others. We should expect naught but what is and accept that nothing else bothers. Let the wheeled use their invisible voices. Let the intellectually poor make their own choices. Let all learn how important a voice is. Only then may we celebrate our rejoices. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Using poetry as a laboratory for social discovery. I love it. Okay, so now we're going back into our feature poets, plural. Okay, so our Women's Writing Circle gathers on Thursday mornings to nourish their literary gardens and explore wild writing. So let's welcome, in the second half, our first poet for In This Body Are Gardens. Welcome to the stage.
My next poem will fray at the edges and be broken. Yes, it will be a broken poem, like Cohen's Broken Hallelujah. My last poem had too much orange sunlight, too many seabirds drying their feathers on jetties on warm evenings, and far more declarative lines about peace and marshmallows than should ever appear in a poem by a real person. My next poem will be written by the real me. It will smell like the end of the day, not the beginning. It will smell like sweat and stale makeup and boots that have trodden the mire. My next poem will bleed and ache and scream where my last poem slept and smiled and ate 3 square meals. My next poem will be the suspect in a murder, the victim of fraud, the last kid picked for the team. My next poem will know the taste of hate on the tongue, where my last poem only knew the taste of bubblegum. My next poem will come from the pollution in my lungs. My next poem will be growled, not sung. My next poem will understand its audience. My last poem will bow down in apology. Thank you. I've been going to Jaya's writing circle since pretty much the beginning, I think about 4 years. And when I first started going, it wasn't long since I'd kind of exited a very patriarchal religious upbringing and finally sort of found myself exploring spirituality a bit more. And the circle's a really sacred sort of space, and we do a lot of looking at ancient texts about sort of goddesses and women of the past who wrote really mystic poetry. So this is kind of one about that, yeah. Goddess, I bowed my head before you, but your jeweled hand reached out. You said, I'm not that kind of God, and you gently lifted my chin to look you in the eye. I began to raise my head higher, thinking if she does not want me to look to bow down, she must want me to look up to her, to exalt her highness by tilting my head to praise her vast sky. But no. You gently stopped my chin from lifting, and suddenly I realized why. I was now looking, not down, not up, but straight ahead. Goddess, there our eyes met, and I was owned. I saw right into the soul of God, and she was not higher than me. Goddess, I saw that I was not your subject, but your equal. Goddess, I saw your divine beauty that pierces the infinite. Holy truth stared back at me, unstoppable. I held your gaze, O woman, O God, and you held mine. Who knew that you were in my mirror this whole time? Thank you. And this is another kind of spiritual-ish one. Through my journey out of religion, I kind of went into atheism and has sort of come back again. So this is my kind of poem about that. It's called If Atheists Had Angels. Imagine if each atheist had an angel following them through the mist, keeping watch as they read their science fiction books and added to the list of things they don't believe. And every time an angel saw a doubt, it caught it and kissed it and put it back into the atheist's head, so that in his skepticism, each atheist was secretly blessed. If atheists had angels hovering over them as they slept, whispering meaningful dreams into their heads, then on waking, the atheists reasoned that their dreams were simply products of their brains, and the angels giggled to each other. When the atheists died, the angels would gather at their tombs, reverent and resplendent, passing their souls up, up, up to knowing. Thank you.
So, following on from Kate, I have made a decision to begin with the poem that was going to be my last poem, but now will be my next poem, called The Next Poem I Write. The next poem I write will be short. Thank you. So, I would like to thank Mary Oliver for her poem Wild Geese before I begin this next one, called Lionesses. The last time I went to the Melbourne Zoo, I was transfixed by the lazily lounging lionesses, soaking rays of sun deep into their pelts. The soft animal of their bodies was succulently sensual, as if saying, I am glorious, alive, and made for pleasure. I stretched within my own skin and wondered, Could I be more like that? The spell of a handwritten note. This is an acrostic poem for those who know what that means. Handwritten note laced with love and the meticulous care of each ink mark placed just so that naked declarations of love become written art, delivered from the heart. Each word, warriors of the page, riding from my pen to your eye or yours to mine, instigating that rarest of treasures, the knowledge that I took the time to think of you, or that you took the time to think of me, and commit our most earnest callings, our deliberate, thoughtful scrawlings to sweet-smelling notepaper. Hold it to my heart paper. Feel the scratch of wood in my hands paper, never to be thrown away paper, or perhaps to be burned paper, so that our words be released like a spell forever into ether. From the depths of grief, cities are built. They rise from the mists of our tears and soar above the tangled roots of our sorrows. Salty oceans have their own tides. They wax and wane with the setting of suns and the rising of moons. My grief for you is so personal. The guilts, the self-blames, the tears and the rages are stamped with the uniqueness of you and me and us. Yet the rhythms are timeless. Sometimes when I grieve for you, I forget you completely, and I grieve for all that never was, never will be, and never should have been. In the depths of this grief, nothing exists but me and my tears of rage and sorrow. My wounding covers the earth. Till, in an unexpected moment, I rise from the mists to soar among the rooftops of the cities built from our grief.
With gun or sword or hammer or knife, you say, defend your art. I draw no weapon. Open-palmed I turn and become what I create. You do not put your teeth away. I'm not supposing that what I'm about to read is perfect, because I'm going to be reading straight from the page as I wrote it at the table at Jaya's house. If I have made this life, it is one of imperfect things. Through imperfection, through cracks darkened with grime, as in bowl or jug or that blue vase. That blue vase cracked into greater beauty through imperfection. This is the magic I build with. I have made this life from imperfect things, made treasures and loves and holdings. For I have no hold for the ideal or the exact, or what could, if not for this other or that other, be precision. I claim all that I am and all that is imperfect. For is not what is perfect seen with own eyes? My eyes in their imperfection see 3 moons, each curve and cup apart and apart. My eyes in imperfection see miracles and wonder and a wildness greater than great. So if I have made this life, it is one of brilliant, dazzling, perfect imperfection. Thanks. Because everything matters. On the first day she trusts in the vision, not of harm long past, but of what is now, of what is the integrity of forgiveness. Because everything matters, she steps that hill so green, so wide, so impossibly tall, that the end ends in infinity. Because everything matters. On the third day, or shall we speak now of decades, or shall we speak now of another life? Yes? On the third day or decade, she falls the fall of failing, where reached out arms found no heart. Part 4, day 4, decade 4, because everything matters, such is found. A tattoo takes the place of, takes the form of who she had been, and who still exists beneath skin. Beneath skin that suffered through blood into stark white lines of fact. A fact on the 7th day or the 6th month or near the close of the 5th decade. That infinite hill is a mountain, and her steps are strong and guided, and the view is vast and right. And because I do not know what I say, and because everything matters, on the first day, on the last day, on the final day. Thank you. I'm shaking like I've never read before, Jesus. This one's for Jaya. I give away my teapots, a passing on of passed on friendship, of cared for memories as old and fragile as those yellow doilies on your grandmother's mantle. I have filled each round belly with ready birth, ready with a love that lifts like breath as you lift the lid. You lift the lid before you pour. You pour water upon leaves, upon what has been, and what once was becomes a flood as deep as blood. I give away my teapots, teapots that have poured tears like streams of laughter, that have poured heart into words that river like tears. I give away my teapots so that you and you may flow with the fullness of pouring. Thank you.
Ooh, okay. I think it's exactly the right height still, so that's a good thing. Beautiful. Yeah. Nice and close? Alrighty. Yesterday I was this way, and today there is an opening to an identity new. Imperceptible to most, yet I see it. I grow it, I am it. A subtle change plunges deep into a cave of well-being. Prismatic flashes of crystal brilliance reflecting never before acknowledged strength. Shining into still water black space, which will be explored into wholeness. Can I sit and savour and celebrate? Unlikely in my old ever-seeking guise. Possibly now, if I could only hold on to a crystal glimmer and grow its luminescence from flash to daylight. Female form soft with curve and trembling innocence. Dewdrop kisses planting delicate flowers of dazzling infinity. Heart of soul fierce with love and acceptance. The wisdom flows and seeks a hearer. Feminine ears resonate with its timbre of belonging. Faint and almost still it has glowed, to be fanned forth bright as open centres resonate true. Masculine ears quake at the far distant power, internalised and boxed to a point of almost forgotten. Let it flow, let it roar, let it love. Oh, sorry. Cool. And this is called I Am Stream. The other two didn't have things on them, but this one does. I am stream. Rain-fed elegance, silky smooth meandering through misty morning. Gentle gurgle hangs among mossy stones and froggy reeds. Stagnant depths ripe with brown algae and decomposing particles of life. Sodden and marshy, sucking at the feet. Swallowing movement in a stillness full of gnats and other biting things. Trickling release under sodden logs and detritus. Growing to dance, sparkling rainbows in the fragrant sun. Dipping birds nourished by the cadence of laughing rapids. Whirling and twirling through greenest banks of wild. Flowing and joining with like-minded tributaries, seeking ocean salt and clean. Whisper to decide, commingling gracefully and with scarcely a whisper to decide. Downhill flow, inevitable and welcome. Current strong with many voices, carrying flotsam and floating things, willing or no, towards penultimate cycling. And so I begin. That's it.
Impressive stuff. Thank you so much for the women from the In This Body Are Gardens writing circle, and congratulations Jaya Penelope, convener of the group. Let's give them another round of applause. Wisdom, wispiness, white hair, we've had strength and love on the stage, so thank you so much, and come back. Okay, yes, all right, so back into open mic. Now we've got a first timer, Adam Lovekiss. Adam Lovekiss, let's clap him till he gets to the stage.
Real pleasure to be here. Thoroughly enjoyed the material I've heard so far. I thought when I saw the write-up of your group that I was constricted to a garden theme, and so I selected something to that effect, but now that I've learnt that it's an anything goes type affair, I've instead chosen to present you with a vision of the apocalypse. So I attend a study group for end time scripture. So we read the Old Testament and we think about what the prophets are telling us about the future and what our journey might look like and how terrifying or hair-raising or cataclysmic but ultimately hopeful it might be. So I used to post poems on WordPress, and one of the people that followed me, her name's Ashley Herod. She's an American poetess, and she wrote a poem about Revelation which so impressed me, and I made a few comments about it. And she said, well, you know what, why don't you do the same? You try write a poem on the book of Revelation. So I thought, okay, all right, I'm going to rise to this challenge. And I was teaching at Port Hedland High School at the time for a month. I was part of teaching flying squad. And after traipsing back through sweltering heat, I returned to my nicely conditioned room and pored over the book of Revelation and then came up with this. Okay, can you feel a warm glow on your right? The ever-present light of Christ ascended, the golden temple keeping us in grace, the place we come to humbled, one knee bended. Hold us in your ever-burning fire, that heaven-tempered seat of intuition, that place where love redoubles in its force, the wellspring that devours all inhibition. Bravest love of all, command the skies, make the sign that spells the Son of Man, the one to gather up the kings of earth from every tribe and tongue and every clan. From on high, reveal the face of God to triumph with an all-pervading view that casts the sly accuser into chains and sees the earth and heaven built anew. Fuse our hearts and minds with your pure will and help us to endure the raging beast, spinning in a froth of manic rage as he confronts the army from the east. Keep us from the scourge of blasphemy, the vitriol against your holy name, Keep us from the plagues and snares of death that put our holy nature into shame. Make the wine of Babylon run dry, no longer to defile the lips of men. Babylon is fallen, shall we cry, as we start o'er and begin again. Let the whirlwind idols of our day find redundancy against your might. Forgive us for exalting aught but you. Pray relieve us in our sorry plight. Make us see you now just as you are, towering in splendour and command, Lord of lords, with Michael at your side, opening the seals that grip the land. One by one the riders gallop out, unseating death and Hades from their place, reining in the demons of the pit, calling them to rise from their disgrace. Fleeing millions scurry in their wake, searching out the shaded rocks and caves, hoping to avert the guilt of sin that cannot brook the searing light that saves. But the star from heaven is now cast, the trumpets sounding shrill across the air, 7 thunders brawling on the plains, with Adam's sons and daughters in despair. Sorcery of old engulfs the scene, the 10-horned dragon fleeing his disguise, murders and the crimes of yesteryear dragged up with all the truths that we despise. One woe is past, behold, still 2 more come, scorpions that sting and bitter bread, men in rampant war and strife unbound, stricken in a panoply of dread. But God on high, observing, flinches not, for still the hope of mercy is alive. The one that causes death to flee calls out, from the pain of loss you shall revive. The Alpha and Omega fuse as one, the light of Stella Maris softly shining. The Spirit and the bride call out in faith, hark ye well, the bridegroom, he is coming. Thank you very much.
Gods and goddesses, spirituality and religion. That's a very strong theme today. I wonder why. Okay, now, all the way from China, we have Sai Qianqian. Sai Qianqian.
Hello, nice to be here, and I came from Hangzhou. It's same time zone, and even the same altitude, but we are in the autumn now. I want to read 2 poems, short poem. One I read in English, and the other one I read Chinese, and I invite Tony. He will read the English version, and. Just after the 5 beautiful female voice, I should read a poem about the woman. But this is a poem about fish, so similar. Poem about fish. I like to think of cars as words. It's easy to change the roots of words. Make U-turn, for example, and you will find an adjective. People bump into each other on the freeway, sometimes creating totally new sentences. If you drive a car into the Pacific, the seawater will know how to refine it. And when you swim out of the car, you will come instantly across a poem about fish. Thank you.
Cai Danxin is a professor of mathematics. Pythagoras played... Oh no, I realised I should have worn my glasses. Pythagoras played music on the hypotenuse while devising the system of rational numbers, a labyrinth as transparent as quartz. His home was on Samos on the Aegean Sea. As a child, he never wanted to be a sailor, nor was he ever enticed to the beautiful gifts of Salonika. Beautiful girls of Salonika, even. Numbers were the treasured roses of his heart. Those crimson, orange, yellow, or pure white flowers were the perfect expression of his, unqualified mind, urging him to write his famous assertion, all things are numbers. Leonardo, once, in Florence, devoted himself to the principle, neglecting the charms of the young beauty Ginevra. Finally, giving up for reasons we don't know. So Tsai wrote that in Medellin, in Colombia.
Thank you, Tony. 树字和玫瑰，毕达哥拉斯在直角三角形的斜边上弹拨乐曲，一边苦苦地构想那水晶般透明的有理树迷宫。他的故乡在爱琴海的萨摩斯岛上，从小就没有想做水手。也没有被萨诺尼卡城里的漂亮姑娘诱惑，树字成为他心中珍重的玫瑰。那些绯红、橙黄或洁白的花朵，巧妙地装饰着无与伦比的头脑。顿出奇写下著名的断言：万物皆数。佛罗伦萨的莱昂纳多曾设法凑近，把妩媚的小美人基勒夫娜撂在一旁，终于因为体格的缘故半途而废。谢谢 ，Thank you。
Share. And thank you for coming to visit us. Sai Chen Chen and Tony, his assistant. Barrel girl. Yeah, in double denim. Love it. Okay, yes, extra claps. Why not? Because that was a great effort. Good job. Okay, Peter Jeffrey to the stage. Peter Jeffrey, here he comes.
I had a remarkable experience in New Zealand. There was a little sort of funicular railway that wound its way around a denuded hill to a lookout right at the top of this peak, if you like. And initially, that peak had been absolutely saturated with kauri trees. But because of the history of the gold rush in New Zealand, it began to be denuded. They were using the kauri for many different things. They made it the facings of the shafts, that they were using for the mines, even though they also used it to divert water because it was fairly alluvial, and so on. And later on, they even used it to fire up factories and foundries. Okay, for sure. So what then happened was that when it was denuded, there was nothing but ferns, all right? And I call this poem then Fanning Ferns. Here in our dry lands, the trees are mostly saplings, and they make screens that spring apart and back as one intrudes. They are larger than shrubs, but just, and one finally cannot see one's companion But by then we will have come upon a shaggy bark tree and then another. A stride away and one is comfortably lost. And so one moves through swathes of whip-back sticks and over bare gravelled rock, all small stones and wisps of grass, and then run up to boulders and jutting cliff. But here, in this wetter land, the chill around one's shoulders like a sodden scarf, one can scarcely see the trees, so occluded are they by the white, green-white stemmed fan of ferns. Their stems set one's teeth on edge. They're all pith and tear apart, like sugar-drenched cane, and one's thoughts are all deep green or spreading white, and they have a misty epiphany of hidden trunks, like the stripper's seventh veil thrown away, part in triumph and part as vapour, revealing that shining tube of pink, white powder and drenched flesh. Once the cowries were thick. They were thick so that wherever one turned, they were barriers, each on each, and they scarcely were tolerant of human movement through them. Searching for a clearing of beyond where one might strike camp and begin the settlement of the mining shafts, the rail track, the slats that carved trails of timber, of gold, and allowed the water to seep in that space of denuded cowrie and lead to gum-booted alluvial dredging in tightly held and delicately tilted pan, so that when the gold dried up, the endless fires of cowrie burnt down to ash, and the ferns began their relentless march, in, around, and over, and under the ever-dying, strangling cowries. Like a pile of Venetian masks that were layered over each other, the ferns fan and spread relentlessly, almost like Mongolian hordes in stampede, and they obliterated any hint of anything but themselves, as our little toy train as our little toy train hurtles around and around, spiralling the mountain. Everything is trickling damp. So here and there, with springing stems and spreading fronds, there is only a camouflage over the stray, errant trees that speak of an earlier time. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter Jeffrey. Environmental degradation. Thank you, Peter Jeffrey. It's all around, people. Okay, now, Tammy Winnett, frequent listener, to the stage. How exciting. We're going to hear from Tammy. Let's welcome Tammy. Huzzah.
This poem is called Life is Like a Tide. The tide. It picks you up and can slap you down. Every time you get up, it slaps you back down again. Till you learn how to try and ride or roll with the waves and find some kind of balance. A way to deal with the bad times, to enjoy and be grateful for the good times. The tide's ebbs and flows are different strengths from moment to moment, day to day, week by week, month by month and year by year. All you can really do is flow with the tide and hope it doesn't wipe you out.
Thank you, Tammy, for sharing. Okay, now, loyal audience members, we're going to go into spillover, and as long as all my spillover people keep to 2 minutes and no preamble, I can fit everybody in. So let's go, Daphne Milne.
Okay, very small preamble. Before I moved here, I went through an awful lot of old photographs. I'm sure you know the territory. This is one from 1954. The photographs show 3 of us, 2 girl cousins and myself. There is a tricycle and a pram. I have a bow in my hair. Our parents sit in deck chairs. I remember none of this. Later, my mother says I never wore a bow, but it is there in the photograph. I look as if I might be happy. I forget. It seems unlikely because I should remember happiness. And it was cold, although the sun is shining and the mothers are wearing summer frocks, the men shirt sleeves. There is noise, the sound of a train in a tunnel, and the tunnel is a passage, the passage from the back door past the cloakroom with the nicotine yellow paint into the stone-flagged hall. The train is invisible, but I can feel the pressure of its passing, and the noise, and the noise, and the noise, and it is a dream. I know it is a dream. I knew then it was a dream, again and again, and it doesn't stop. Until one day it does, and memory begins. And it is cold.
Daphne, you are forgiven. John McDonough. John McDonough to the stage. Yes, let's welcome him. Thank you.
Okay, this is a departure from a normal style. I'm going to do 2 Senryos and 3 Clever Hues. Senryos are like haikus, but instead of a reference to nature, it's a reference to humanity. So the first one is called 6. Leather on willow, arms raised, fingers proud. The crowd goes balmy. The next one's called Happy Splashing, and just for context, Happy Splashing is a practice of driving a car through a puddle with the intent of drenching somebody. Tyre cuts through puddle, tsunami drenched to the bones.
You fucking wanker!
Clever Hues are 4 lines long, 2 rhyming couplets. The first line is the name of a famous person, and the remainder of the poem is the reflection of their life. So the first one is, Johnny Martin Marr, guitar superstar. His melodic riffs are the stuff of myths. Stephen Patrick Morrissey, allegorically, metaphorically, solitary. The sun and air have nothing in particular. And the last one's about Marie Antoinette. Maria Antonia Josepha Joanna, profligate and promiscuous in manner. Quils mangeons de la brioche, said the Queen, before losing her head to the guillotine. Thank you.
Born in natural wonder is Princess Larimar, embodiment of the tranquil sea, dressed in silken sky energies. Lucayan natives harmonize the soothing winds with turquoise blues. Can you hear the humble calypso of Atlantis and the dolphins too? Soft waves of foam melt upon the smooth marble ocean, the shallow depths streaked with white light-lined patterns dancing, like calligraphy brought to life by the sun. Move ahead 10 centuries and every morning pearls are pulled toward the shore, the beach goddess and her sandcastle. Its walls crumble gently, breathing with equanimity, guiding peaceful armies of seahorse and starfish effortlessly. Move ahead 10 centuries and she is Larimar, beach goddess. A shining crown of golden coral sits upon her sweet head, and her blonde to honey, brown to sandy hair plays with the sun, To me, this is what she has said. Move along with the ebb and flow, for there is always more to come.
Thank you, Draz. And we will have more for you next Saturday here, specifically Cindy Moody and Gillian Taylor. So don't miss these feature poets. And then directly after Perth Poetry finishes next week, we're going to have Kep Corlini, Rain Coming, the poets that are Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. So that sounds amazing. I wouldn't miss it if you are free. Okay, and now to finish the gig for us, a poem by Octavia Butler. Yes, a science fiction author. All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. Thank you.